Hey, and welcome to another episode of Inspiritment with Joe Kupka. This is one of our bonus episodes where you get to be part of a conversation that I have with some incredible people sharing their heart and their wisdom. You are going to hear from Lou and Sherri from the Lou Everett group today, and I'll introduce them in a moment. But they have so much gold, so much wisdom to share. But before we get into that, I just wanted to take a moment to remind you or tell you, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, it may have been a while, that if you are interested in going deeper in some of the self-leadership, personal development things, I do actually facilitate a group program around that. So for adults, it's called Ignite, and I also run one for teens called Lit. So if you are interested, maybe this is your year, as you'll hear from Lou in a little bit, to invest in yourself and develop yourself for the sake of those around you. So if you're interested in that, get in touch. You can email me, get on my website, joekupka.com, and we will have a conversation and see how we can get that started for you. But now, sit back, listen in, and I cannot wait to share the wisdom that Lou and Sherri have for you today. Hello, we have some really special guests with us today. So this is Lou and Sherri from the Lou Everett group, and they are known for their highly effective coaching, teaching, and speaking on the importance of personal group growth and the impact that this has on our influence as leaders. And if you've been around this podcast for a while, you know that is absolutely my heart and what I love to talk about too. So they have more than 4 decades of combined experience with training, coaching, leadership. They've received training and mentoring from a whole range of incredible people like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, Jack Canfield, Paul Martinelli, and they are certified leadership coaches and corporate trainers. So please join me in welcoming them to the podcast today. I am so excited to have you guys on. But I thought to start with, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your stories and why is it that you love doing all this stuff with leadership so much? What is it that drives you guys?
Good question. Good question. Did you want to start there?
Do you want to start with that one?
We
can start there. I got a good story for
Mhm.
you.
Awesome.
I mean, the short story, I was influenced ever since I was young. My mom shares a story time and time again, and I love it, is that here I was, the littlest one out of everybody in my neighborhood, and here I was telling them what to do. So that just had the earmarks and characteristics of a leader, and then eventually it kind of grew into and learning more and developing. But really what stemmed into really my personal growth, I always knew about it in the roles that I've had. I just kind of fell into it, but I didn't really dig in enough into my personal growth. So what really stemmed for my personal growth on a serious note to go into this head on was an experience. I was in the hospital in August of 2018. I was in the ICU in the burn center for 10 days with a rare disease. And at that time, we weren't sure if I was going to live or die. And with that, it came from a situation where my immune system, my whole body it started out as simple cold, but it was really, my body was being attacked. All my good mucous membranes were basically revolting and I was burning from the inside out, hence the burn center. And the reason I share that story is because leading up to that, I was actually in a work environment that was very high sales, very stressful work environment where leadership at that time was more focused on the bottom line than they were valuing their employees. And we have heard that story time and time again with multiple people in the world. But you know what? I landed myself in the hospital because of that. And here it was so extreme where there was verbal abuse as well as expectations of working 70 plus hours and weekends, just kind of that crash and burn all the time, go, go, go. And our bodies aren't meant to do that extreme stress for long periods of time. So needless to say, I thankfully with the good doctors, I was out in 10 days with very minimal damages and I survived. So I still have some residuals. I have my cough. I got a chronic cough. So if you hear me cough, that's the reason, as well as some like severe dry eyes I have to deal with. But honestly, I mean, what could have happened, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So so I mean, to make a long story short, my growth development really started from there on a personal level, because we knew that, wow, I'm like, we knew that we had to kind of dive in a little bit of what leadership is about, right? And leadership is not positional, it's influence, nothing more, nothing less. So that really stemmed my personal growth on a deeper level than just kind of falling into in a leadership role. So that was the start of my story, and also the springboard of our business, of why we chose to what we wanted, doing to this day and transforming today's leaders. Let's be proactive and not be reactive in these circumstances.
And that was really the crux of our experience. Sherri and I are husband and wife. We are a couple. So we've been in business. We've been in business with each other since 2005. This is not our first rodeo in business, but and I've been at the executive level like Sherri, and been at the leadership levels, and experienced a lot of this cultural influence that we have on those that we lead. And that just hit home. Even though we had already been in business, we had already begun doing what we do, that just really spearheaded the experiences that we wanted to then begin to change for those that are out there, so that they realize the value of the people that it is that they're serving.
Yeah. It's sometimes takes something huge for us to kind of stop and evaluate. Hang on, what is my life looking like, and what do I actually want it to look like? Yeah. Incredible experience to drive you guys. Yeah.
I mean, if you would have told me 2 years ago that, hey, there's something that's going to be bigger than you, but you have to walk through this first, I obviously we would not do that. But things happen for a reason, and we took that resilience and we pressed on, and it's been a really great blessing ever since, really.
Learned a lot from it. But that was absolutely a pivotal moment in our business when that experience happened. We realized we were on the right path, because we had just started the business, working for corporate still, and realized, wow, this is why. This is our why right here. And it wasn't shortly after that we both resigned and started doing this full time, and absolutely love it.
That's amazing. So cool. So cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I would also love to hear about what is getting you excited at the moment. Like, what excites you at the moment?
The excitement, what excites me right now, especially in the where we are, and this is important to talk about, because we are still, I hear post-COVID a lot. We're not post-COVID yet. We're still there. We're and the reason it's going to be not post-COVID ever, in my opinion, is because of the impact that it's had on us as people globally. But what I'm excited about is what it's done for us as people as a whole, on the opposite side of the negativity. As a people as a whole, just like anything else catastrophic that attacks our race, is that we become united in some front. And what excites me is that no matter what it is that happens to us, no matter what our backgrounds are, no matter what it is that we're going through, the one thing that we all have in common is the catastrophe of COVID at this point. And so we can use that to the advantage of benefit to how can we now be better people and better leaders moving forward. So what excites me is being a part of developing people and showing them ways that they can become a better leader by understanding and learning the lessons that we have learned over the last 2 years during this crisis. And now that's going to bring us into the next year, but not just the next year, but into the next generation.
Or even the next crisis.
And through the next crisis.
Whatever it may be.
Whatever it might be, yeah.
So we have to reflect,
get ready and prepared,
and prepare of what's next. Not to say it has to be that catastrophe, but we still
there'll be something.
And we need to be prepared to some degree.
Yep.
What lessons did we learn? right? We all are now across the globe. I mean, we're in North Carolina in the States, and you're in Australia, so that opened up floodgates for many people to embrace what virtual conferencing is all about. And we personally have met through networking in the last year and a half some wonderful people all across the globe that have been, we've never would have been that if it hadn't been that.
At least as quickly, right?
As quickly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So those relationships are very exciting. So yeah, that's what excites us, is just being a major part of helping and being a part of the new transition into leadership, because that's what's happening. And that's what needs to happen for other companies to be successful, is to realize you're not going back to the way it was. Doesn't exist anymore. And we're a part of that. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it has. It's been a real time of kind of shaking up our comfort zones, and kind of just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean that's what we need for this next season, next time ahead.
Yeah, or should have even been done before. You realize now that we didn't have to do it that way if you're open to it.
If you're open to it.
Yes, if you're open to it. Yeah.
And there's so many new leaders that have emerged, and this is exactly to the listeners, is that, well, now I'm in a new role, or now I'm doing my own business, because they have left those jobs and left those circumstances that could have been toxic, and now have a newfound purpose in what they're doing. But it's you just stepped into a whole new pond, and your leadership skills need to be leveled up. And that's why you need coaches and mentors in your life, at all different realms, to be successful and not fall back on those old ways and habits.
Yeah.
You
don't know what you don't know.
This is very true. I think the longer I'm in leadership, the more I realize I don't know about leadership. I think that's
right. All the time. All the time.
Yeah. That's great. So you mentioned, the things that we've learned in the last couple of years. What about you guys personally? What lessons have kind of stood out to you?
Well, I actually get along with my wife, even though we spend every single minute together. I'm kidding. We did anyway. We own our business. We live and work in our home office. So I mean, it's one of those things. But for me, it gave the space necessary for me to not only say, okay, what do I need to do to develop myself better so that I can have more to give to other people. It gave me that space and awareness to see how can I help repair some of this. We can never fix it, but what can I do to help repair it? And I have to start repairing it with me first, and then work out. That's the first thing. The second thing that it helped me with, and that benefited me, and I learned from it, is that there's always something that I can do and give during times of crisis that I never thought I could, because I realized that there's power in every single person, and specifically in me, to be able to sit back and say, what can I give? What can I do to help other people get through something like this? So that's helped me tremendously over the last 2 years, to think just completely outside the normal realm, normal scope of business, and now begin to think about things in life and how that can become better overall. That's for me.
And for me, I really think two things. And one, patience. That's always one. But also I learned from my colleagues is to collect stories. And one colleague in particular, we were talking about networking and how does it work, because we're working with the folks that don't even know about networking. What do I do? Right now you're running your own business. Well, how do I get people to even know about me? And he had a really great knack of connecting with others at that level that even helped me as a seasoned person. Right, I was still learning and growing, and I love the concept of collecting stories. So you can I can collect stories, but to understand people's perspective.
It's true.
And that has been eye-opening and made me rethink, or at least stop and think, instead of being judgmental or quick thought about like, and a knee-jerk reaction of, we just think of something based on our own impressions. And then you have to be like, oh, wait, time out. What's the story here? What's really going on? So it's just that quick thinking of like, wait a minute, don't go down that negative rabbit hole. What's really going on, and again, collect the person's story and find out.
That's true though.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just an impact, because when you
Yeah.
you really get someone's story and take the time to listen to that.
Mhm.
There's the only living thing on this planet that interrupts their own growth process is humans.
Yeah.
Nothing else does it, right? Nature doesn't. Trees, flowers, they just
Mhm.
grow. They just do their natural thing, unless we or something outside of it interrupts it. They don't interrupt it themselves, but we do it for ourselves. And we need to stop and realize that there's power in our humanness. And by gathering those stories, sometimes we have to, what does our mentor say? Borrow some positivity,
Mhm.
borrow somebody else's experiences so that you can be motivated, borrow motivation.
Mhm.
I think that's important, right?
Humans, we keep
Absolutely.
evolving. We're one of the few species, I love it from one of our mentors that talks about the cow or the horse. They'll just wake up one day going, I'm going to be a cow, and they're a horse, I mean, or vice versa. Like they just don't. Whereas human beings, and it's amazing if you think of it again, perspective and learning from others of like, oh yeah, that's true. We can take the time to evolve and enjoy the journey, which is another great concept too. If you're an entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, is to really embrace the journey and your wins and losses. So that's a whole nother topic, but that's something, it's a great nugget to really share with your audience, especially if you're new beginnings, new fresh year. Okay, this is exciting, but don't and reflection. So that's so key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like that posture of curiosity. If you're taking that curiosity into all of those relationships and interactions, that's where you're getting that understanding, getting that perspective, because you're not approaching it with, hey, I know everything and I know better. It's that place of curiosity and kind of going, hey, I want to learn from you. What do you have to share? And I think that's so key. I loved what you were saying, how in some ways we're so united because we've all had this sort of common enemy, as it were, that we're facing.
Yeah.
And
That's
yet in
right.
other ways, there's been a lot of division that's come through that as well. And I found having that posture of curiosity can be so helpful in getting that understanding. And as you're saying, not just responding with judgment, but kind of going, hey, what's going on here for you? Right. And what perspective are you bringing to this that's different from mine? So yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that.
That's a big part of being a leader is understanding perspective.
Yeah.
And connecting with other people's perspective.
Yeah.
You don't always have to be right. As a matter of fact, most of the time we're not. Okay. Just because it's our opinion or our viewpoint doesn't mean we're right. What's right is how we are influencing other people for the benefit and for the better, right? For the positive betterment of their success. That's what leaders do. Successful leaders do. That's what positive leaders do. And if we can do that, and one of the things we mentioned, like you said, listen to their stories and just understanding for their perspective is what's going to help us be more influential in our communities and eventually even globally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as we kind of look at a new year ahead and all the possibilities that brings, how do we approach that? What do we bring to a new year to help set ourselves up well?
Well, interestingly enough, we're never victims of our future, right?
That's good.
We're victims of our past, not our future. So we have it to create. We're creators. That's what we as humans by nature want to create. That's what we do. But sometimes we forget that we can create our own future. Okay. And so my perspective, and Sherri can certainly share hers too on this, because I know she's got her perspective on this, because it's powerful, is that we have the ability to make the necessary adjustments and pivots and focuses to create our own empowered future. There's some things we need to do though. in order to make that happen, right? What's worked previously, what hasn't worked previously, as an example. We need to take an inventory of those things and remove the things that aren't in alignment with what our empowered future looks like. People as another thing. Take an inventory of the people that we spend our time with. What is Jim Rohn? Jim Rohn says that we're the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with.
Very true.
Take an inventory of that. Who are we? Who are we allowing to speak into our lives that is not in harmony with what our empowered future is? We have the ability to create that. So don't give people permission to speak into our life that is not in harmony with that. Because we are the only ones that are going to be able to need to live through that empowered future. It's our future. No one's going to give that to us. We have to create that, along with other things too. I mean, if you're a Christian, that like I am, we believe in other higher power and other higher beings, and regardless of what your belief system is, that's, the point is that there are other forces in that are helping us along the way, whether it's the universe or another power. But we need to use the power and ability that we have as human beings to create that and to live through that. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that you just took the words right out.
Oh, sorry. We tend to do that to each other sometimes.
I was going to use the leader, what we have on the influence on what to do.
Oh, the 6 things the leader should do every day.
That's what I was.
That's a good one.
Yeah. He took the other concept.
Okay, that's a good one. Hey, you got to go with your instincts, right?
I know. No, we actually have it's actually leader, and each letter stands for something, but I mean, we don't have to go through all of them, but to me, my favorite is actually the apply, which is the A. But the first one is learn every day. That's the first one, right? You got to learn every day. If it's a book or just something, an observation, conversation, just as simple as that. Learn every day, something to pull away from. Then the second one is experience. You need to experience. Now that you learn something, but now you need to experience it. I use a great example of Walt Disney World, right? It's the experience.
Right.
That's what it's that there's a whole experience with it, and then you're more likely to remember.
Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse, the whole 9 yards. and to learn and to practice. But my favorite of the leader principle here is really apply every day. And this is the most important, in my opinion, because I'm a doer and I'm a visual person. And once I do apply it, then I'm more likely to remember and actually do it.
And you see results.
By doing it. So you got to take what you learned and the experience, but then you actually have to apply it. If it's teaching another person, even if it's your spouse or somebody in your family, that's okay. That we're leaders no matter how you look at it. You're a mom, you're a parent, we're all leaders in some fashion. We really are. A quick story with the application. It's kind of funny. We were at networking one time, and there's this gentleman that was boasting about this book, right? Some type of fantastic personal development book. And he was saying about like how fabulous it was, about the worksheets it had.
Yeah, had a
planner in it of some sort to really
personal
get you
development plan or something.
Yeah, it sounded great. We're like,
well,
that's fantastic. We're like, well, how did that work out for you? And he paused and he goes, "Oh, I never really finished it. I didn't really look at he
never finished the book. He didn't finish the plan.
And nor did I actually follow the worksheets that went along with it. But it's a great book." And we looked at each other going, okay.
I don't even know what the book was, because obviously we don't know if it worked.
Yeah.
He didn't apply it. It's amazing, right? It's like, but we usually think that stuff. That guy said it.
Yeah.
That guy said it. He admitted it. He just said it. No, actually, I didn't even finish it, but it was a great book.
It was a great book. So it's got the classic shelf help book where you read it and then you just put it right back on the shelf. Well, that doesn't really do anything, right? So it's just comical. So that was a funny story.
Yeah, those are the 3 of the top, the leader. So leader is a mnemonic, and as you spell LEADER, LEA is learn, experience, apply every day. So those are the first 3 of that 6 things a leader should do every day.
Awesome. And I know I saw on your website that you have a video on that under Mindset Minute. So we'll have links to the website and everything there as
Yes,
well.
yes.
Cool. Definitely helpful. Go and check it out. So we'll link to that and share a bit more about that in a minute. But yeah, great acronym. And it is like, I love that concept that it's achievable things. Like it doesn't have to be, hey, I'm going to sit and study this thing for an hour. And you know,
That's
what
right.
you do that day, awesome. But it can just be that small little moment. But if you have that as an intention in your head that this is what I'm doing each and every day, a small step forward each and every day, that's really what sets ourselves up well over a year.
It's true.
Right.
It is those very intentional things that you do. And you hit the nail right on the head. They're being intentional, setting those intentional moments or intentional, we call them goals, right? But goals almost seem, saying the word goals anymore, it's like saying the word, outside. It doesn't matter. People just think it's an intentional movement, an intentional action that moves you towards where you are now to where you intend to be, right? That's what we're talking about here. And those little things make a huge difference in making that happen.
And if you can just make that one little adjustment, and be the better person than you were the day before, it all compounds. I love the personal book. Just to throw out a book is just Darren Hardy of the Compound Effect.
Oh,
and
yeah, great.
I can reread that book, and it does have worksheets with it to go through and to go through it. And it's amazing. And I'll be honest, the first time I read it, I did not go with the worksheets because I wanted to learn it all first. I wanted to kind of look at it.
Yeah, we all have a process.
Yeah, we have a process. But it's a fantastic book, and it sticks with me. And when you do the exercises, or even just taking a one chapter at a time, it really works. So that's what I love about things like that. When you do just a little bit and just compounds, it really does. You gotta look at it for the long game and not the short game.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because, and I think it's difficult sometimes for us, and let's just be real. And I know that, then I'll talk to the listeners here for a minute. You have children, I have children, we have families, and we have responsibility. And it's very difficult a lot of times for us to sit back, and I'm sure I'm speaking to somebody very specifically here who I'm talking to. And it's when there's an opportunity to invest in yourself for your own development, we think twice, because we think words like, well, but I can spend the time or the money on my family, or on my husband, or on my wife, or on my significant other, or my child. But we tend to do this a lot. More often than not, we sacrifice our own personal growth. We think we're sacrificing that for our family, that's a good thing. I'm here to tell you that it's not a good thing. It's a terrible idea. I'm not saying to put yourself first above your family. What I'm saying here, and Sherri, you can help back me up on this, is what I'm saying here is that you need to put yourself first with your personal growth before other people. There's why. As a mother, as a father, as a leader in general, because as a mother or as a father, if you have a family, you are a leader. What you do impacts and influences your family. If you can only give your family at the limit of your own growth. You can't give them anymore. No matter how hard you try, you cannot provide any more to your family than at your limit, wherever you are in your level of growth, because you don't know what you don't know. So if you want to give more to your family, because we all do, then give more to yourself first. Grow yourself. Go through these things, come up with an intentional plan, an intentional, purposeful actions throughout the year that is going to help you grow personally, because now you're going to have ammunition. You're going to have intention to be able to now grow other people around you, whether it is your family or whether it is other people that you lead in your business. So I hope that came across well. But it's I can't stress the importance that, and Sherri and I preach this so much, If you ask anybody in our network of friends and connections in business, if there was one takeaway from the Lou Everett group that they took away at any time that they met with us, it is invest in your own personal growth, because you cannot give to anybody else unless you do. So if you're a giver,
So
do that.
foundational. It's so foundational. I mean, it's that old analogy of, you put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others. And it's that same sort of thing. You have to be getting the resources you need to be able to then help others. And I always think, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and right from little, I know that she's watching me. And so if I'm actually developing myself, it's also setting up that pattern and that model for my daughter to then follow. She sees me sitting down and doing reflections. She sees me, I'm also a Christian, that's part of my journey. And, she sees me sitting and reading the Bible in the morning, and she sees me choosing to exercise when I really don't feel like it. She sees these things. But on the flip side, she also sees the places where I'm not intentional, where I'm on my phone too much that day, and when I'm doing other things. And I know that helps spur me on, is kind of going, this is for her as much as it's for me.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's so true. And you're so influential, and other people that we don't realize that see it too.
Someone's always watching.
Always.
Someone's always lurking. And we see it on social media. We see it even a quick passing. Little quick story. I was, we do a lot of content on our social media, and we intentionally put it out daily. And there was a misspelling on like a heading. And now, mind you,
it was my fault.
And we missed it,
it,
right? We got 2 eyeballs on it, and then we missed something. It was something minor, but it was enough, right? Well, lo and behold, no joke, somebody messaged me and said, you might want to relook at that heading.
You misspelled it.
I'm like, okay, this person never responds or ever puts a comment in, but they admire. So I find that funny. And case in point, going, well, there's the case in point. Someone's always looking.
And they're learning from it.
Yeah.
And they're learning from it. And we learn from it. I did. I got to proofread more. I got to be careful what I'm looking at. Right. And that's true. We all have something to learn from one another in our own growth, especially, and being cognizant of what it is that's going on around us, because we influence people. Matter of fact, the number is we actually unintentionally influence 10,000 people in our lifetime, unintentionally. That means not on purpose. We influence 10,000 people in our lifetime, an average person. Can you imagine what we could do if we did it on purpose? If we intentionally did what we could do to influence people on a purposeful way, it could change things. It could change 10,000 people. That's huge. We could really make some good headway there.
Yeah. Wow. That's mind-blowing numbers.
It's crazy. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I even think of those little moments in our day, and that concept of being who you want to be in all those moments. Like, it's easy on social media to have this curated highlight reel of, the best of me today, and you just don't see what's happening behind the scenes. But it's the people like the checkout person at the supermarket or grocery store for you guys. That little interaction there. Are you being that person that you're wanting to be in those moments? In traffic, how are you with other motorists around you? And I often think about that. If I say I'm this patient, loving, caring person, is that actually showing up in every aspect, or just when I want it to be on show?
That's true. Yeah, that's the humanness part of us, right? And it's okay to say, I just don't do as well as I can, or as I should sometimes, and learning from those things. But you're absolutely right. I'm one of my inherited genetic things is I'm very expressive. I have very, very strong facial expressions. And so if I'm not careful, I could have a conversation with Sherri in public, and we'll be sitting down having coffee, and we're having a conversation. That's just generalized, okay, good conversation. But my expression, I might say, the way I say things, I have an Italian and Irish in me. And that blend
Great combo.
creates expression big time, especially in my face. And so if I'm not cognizant of it, my expression might appear to be a little bit more aggressive than it should be. And it's really not. It's just who I am. I'm more cognizant of that in public just because I want to influence people for the better. It's not because it's, yeah, it's my business, not their business. And we can get into all that conversation, but we're all people. And what we say, what we do, how we behave, and can impact somebody else. We don't know what day they're having.
Mhm.
We can learn from them.
Mhm.
And I think if we just, a personal thing for me, if we just take the time to learn from somebody, whether it's just that moment, that interaction, or whether it's just by spending a second with somebody in a checkout line to find out how their day really is. I was at a restaurant. We went to this local restaurant. I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago now. I remember that new place there that we got that burger.
Oh, right. Okay.
And she came and the waitress came out and I said, how are you doing? And she says, she goes, I'm doing all right. I said, well, how can we make it great instead of all right? She goes, well, Christmas is coming up and I need some money to make money today, a lot more money. I said, well, it makes sense. She's a waitress. It's hard work. I've done it. And so just having that small, quick interaction, the rest of our experience, she checked on us. We had good conversation. Hopefully, I learned a lot from her because I got to know a little bit about what she's working for that day, which of course changed our tip, right? Because now we know what she's working for that day, and hopefully that experience helped her. I think moments like that make a difference in our lives, not just in them, but in us.
Yeah, I heard it. I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard someone say, watch how someone treats a waiter or someone in that sort of service thing. That's a better indication of their character than how they treat their boss or their colleague or something like that. Someone that they perceive as potentially less than, not that that's accurate in any way, shape or form,
Right.
but
Right.
how you are treating the human beings around you, regardless of position or anything like that, and what they can do for you.
That's right.
There's so much about a person.
Big time.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are serving you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing. And when you're in the service industry and you're working and you're going and you're taking advantage of that service industry by whether it's a restaurant or a hotel, they're working and they're serving you. And there's still humanness in a part of it. Just because it's their job doesn't mean that we take out the humanness part of us being people. That's a big part of who we are as humans that I think that we've buried, that we need to bring back.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for social media and online things as well. It can be easy to forget that that's a human being on the other end of that screen who is going to be reading your words or listening to you rant about something. And
that's right.
If we approach everything that we do with that sort of attitude, would make a huge difference.
Change things. Yeah. And it's okay to have your moments where you just need to vent, but do it in a way that's not going to negatively impact and influence somebody else. I mean, Sherri and I do it. Just earlier today, there was a couple of moments today. I mean, we all have Mondays on Thursdays, right? Like today is a Monday, but today really is. Well, it was a Monday for me. And there was situations that come up and I'm just like, what is going on? And of course I vent, but I'm not going to go and vent to clients. I'm not going to vent to the restaurant that's serving me that has nothing to do with it. I'm not going to take it out on Sherri or my dog or anything else, right? It's a matter of understanding that we're all in this together. We all have one goal in our mind, and every human has it, and that is to be a successful human being that feels accomplished and that feels that they have a purpose. We all have that. We all have that intention. So we got to sometimes look back at that and say, this is why we are who we are. No matter what it is that we do in our job or our business, we're still people, and people thrive after the same thing.
Absolutely. Love it. Loving this conversation. getting back to this idea of a new year ahead, and we've sort of talked about some of those intentions and setting that intention. Obviously, that works well when you know where you're wanting to head, when you actually know sort of the direction you're wanting to head. But I know for a lot of people, that starting point can feel really difficult. And they're like, I don't even know. What would you say to someone in that situation? How do they figure out that kind of direction, that intention of where they're wanting to go or who they're wanting to be?
I see. So what you're asking is, okay, I know that I need to do something, because we all have that innate feeling, but where do I start? How do I determine what it is that I want to do in the next year?
Mm-hmm.
Well, right, for me, I'll start with the one thing. First of all, don't look at it as a year. Look at it, okay, what can I do tomorrow that's going to grow me bigger than I am today? Start a little bit smaller.
Thing, right?
That's the one thing.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
That's the one thing I'll say. Did you want to add more to that? Because I have more I can add. I just don't want to take it all.
Well, you got to be with the best business coaches.
That's true.
You know, so.
That's true.
Got to throw that in there.
That's true. Got to get the best business coaches out there. That's true. At least in the Raleigh, North Carolina area.
Right. Exactly. No, but I actually think to actually find mentors and coaches and be careful on who you're around. And just like the Jim Rohn, we are the average of the 5 people that we are around, and really take the listen on that, really heed that, to find out who lifts you up and who brings your energy down.
Yeah.
So that I would do an inventory if you're really confused of at least energy of like, who can I be around that I have these hopes and dreams and I want, but who can I be around to share with that's going to be encouraging, but maybe still have some objectives. You're like, well, did you think about this or that? But not so where they bust your dream and make you feel like you're less than, right? We need that some type of objection, but we don't need those dream busters out there or dream vampires. There's enough of them out there. We need to surround ourselves with folks that lift us up. And I think that's one thing that's very important to that inventory. Also, if you're feeling overwhelmed, is to write it down. I'm a huge person in journaling and reflecting. I reflect every day at the end of the day, and find out, what are your strengths? What are your opportunities? What do I like to do? Just finding out what your purpose is a project in itself. It's a little worksheet in itself.
Yeah.
But
as a matter of fact, you reach out to, anyone reaches out to us, we'll be more happy to send out to you. We have a worksheet we put together. It's a purpose, passion, why, action guide. And it outlines that. You identify, but even if you don't want the action guide and you don't like this guy, Lou Everett, that was just on your show, like, I don't really like that dude. So that's okay. So write on your paper, but 3 columns, passion, purpose, why. And all you do is and what Sherri said, don't be afraid to dream, because people think this whole concept of dreaming is something you can't ever achieve. That is completely wrong. A dream is an intentional, purposeful vision of where you are, where you want to go from where you are today. It's the same verbiage as a vision. A dream and a vision relate. Anybody that's been successful and famous in this world had a dream, which is also a vision, and they've achieved it. So what you need to do is write these 3 columns down. Passion. What are you passionate about? What do you love to do? Doesn't mean what you're doing now. Maybe you're not as passionate about what you're doing now. Well, write down what your passions are. It doesn't matter what it is. If you like to go out and collect a certain kind of bumblebee, write that down. Doesn't matter what it is. Because those bumblebees, those certain type of bees that you like, because I'm not a bee person, as you're going to find out right now, that type of bee might be able to create honey, right? There's the honeybees. Well, those honeybees, now all of a sudden you find out your passion, identify what those are. It doesn't matter how crazy you think they sound, because it's not anybody else's. It's not my passion. It's not what I like to do. It's what you like to do. That's all that matters. Write down all the list of all your passions. Write down all the list of, okay, well, why is that my passion? That's your purpose. The reason I like to go out and I collect these kinds of bees is because that's your purpose. That I love to work with children with special needs. Well, why? That's your purpose for that particular passion. Then you go to the why column. People some people don't like that I have a why column in this, but I think it's important because, well, isn't that your purpose is what you're, no. Why is that your purpose? So we're digging deeper. You see how deep we're getting here? Okay, I love working with children with disabilities. Why? That's my purpose. Because I have a child with disabilities and it's changed their life when they had someone work with them and it's made their life better. That's your purpose, to make somebody else's life better. Well, why do you want to make their life better? Well, the reason I want to make their life better is X, Y, Z. Now you're digging deep. Now you've got a reason.
And you find your North Star.
And then you find your North Star. Mm-hmm. So you have that. And you're going to dig up anything you can to find out how to get there. That's the way. That's a place to start.
That is great. Yeah, absolutely. We so I facilitate a self-leadership program with another organization called Lead Different. That's one of the hats I wear. And we always talk about, you don't just stop at the first question. You always go to the second and the third question, because that's where you really get to that substance that's actually going to drive you. That's actually the truth underlying things. So yeah, 100%. I love that. Yeah, definitely. 100%. So get that worksheet from them and sit and reach
out to us. We'll send it out to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so good. So good. Any other thoughts or anything else that you think, I don't want to leave this conversation before I've said this? Any other last wisdom or advice that you'd really love to give people?
My only advice is the personal development. You know, we got to start somewhere, and to start on that journey of learning and being curious every single day. That is, I think that's the really the hit home for anyone listening, depending where you are in your career. If you're just starting out, want to just up level your skill set, honestly, learning every day and then applying it, that is key. I can't stress that enough. And then diving into that personal development a little bit at a time, and you'll see that there's so much wonderful things that can happen of it. And it really shifts your mind and your heart and your spirit.
It's true. Yeah. And it's so important to identify that and just to understand something. What you engulf, what you dive into is what you become. So identify what you want to become. What do you want to become? Who do you want people to know you by? What do you want people to know about you? You know, there's this, and it sounds morbid, but it's a real question. And I'll leave this with you and the listeners here. On the day that we all have that one morbid day when we pass away, it's terrible to think about. But on that day, when there's people going up and giving their memorial of who you are, what do you want them to say about you? It's important for us to sit back and know this, because when we know this, then what are we going to do? Now you have an outline of who you want to become. Steps to get there, that'll come in time. Don't worry about the steps yet. Look at the vision first. We have to start there and work backwards to here. It's like GPS. I have an IT background, but I'm not a programmer by any means of the imagination. I just like to fix things. But I have a programmer friend of mine who was talking about the GPS on your phone and how that works. We put in a starting point, and we put in where we want to go. And if our GPS is turned on, it tells us where we already are. And it gives us from where we are to where we end up. But the programming behind that doesn't work that way. It actually starts at the end. So the programming starts at the end and works backwards to find the right route. And then it tells you the route. It's exactly the same way when it comes down to where we want to be, whether it's in business, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally and working in the corporate environment. We need to feel, and envision what that end result where we want to be looks like, feels like. And then we can say, okay, what steps would I have to take to get there? If we don't know exactly which step, there's a misstep, we don't know which one to take, That's when you bring in people like us and other people out there that do what we do to help guide you in that direction to find out what steps you need to take to get from here to there. There's enough of us out there. Utilize it so that you can get there. We do. We've got 5 coaches for us because we need it. So do the same thing. It's the best thing we ever did. Then that way you don't have to second guess it. Don't throw spaghetti against the wall, see if it sticks. Find a path, jump ahead of the line, and find your way.
So how do people get in touch with you? What's the best way to find out more from you guys?
Yeah, they can reach us on our website at loueverettgroup.com. We're on LinkedIn as well as Facebook and Instagram. So we're out there, easy, accessible. Even our phone numbers on our website, and we'd love to talk to you.
That would be
We actually pick up the phone. It's great.
Awesome. So I would definitely recommend that for my US listeners. Australian callers, that may be a little bit of an expensive.
Maybe a little much, yeah. Yeah, and the time difference might be a little weird. So shoot us an email.
Yeah. Yeah, but that is so good. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing just so much wisdom there. I know that people are going to grab all sorts of different bits and pieces about that. But what I really loved, sort of a theme that kind of ran through it all, is this idea of relationship and actually seeing each other as human beings and treating each other that way, and having that as your foundation, that sort of that love for others and how you're seeing others really is kind of this foundation that kind of underpins so much else. Even the way that we look at developing ourselves sort of has that at the core. So thank you so much for sharing that conversation today.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us. Absolutely. Thank you, listeners, for listening, and reach out if you need anything at all. We're here.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Cool. Well, I will see you all next time.